And now, Joe Bob's Last Call and Ghoulies 2 on TNT.
So all the writhing zombie house guests live happily ever after. And Charles Band's monster puppets went into a warehouse somewhere where they were pulled out 2 years later for the movie Troll. Not the exact same puppets, but they're pretty dang close. They're in the same slime family. You'll see what I'm talking about next time we show Troll on Monstervision. I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and I want to remind you that next week we have the Brian De Palma classic that you can't show too many times. I'm talking, of course, about Carrie. And we'll be following that with the movie David Lynch made after Twin Peaks was on TV called Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, which is actually about what happened before Twin Peaks was on TV, so it's kind of confusing, isn't it? Now, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the bathroom, that was the actual tagline on the poster for Ghoulies 2, with another shot of the Ghoulies coming up out of the toilet. And I don't think, did I tell you the tagline for the first Ghoulies? I don't think I mentioned that. The first tagline was, "They'll get you in the end." Ghoulie coming up out of Nothing like scatological humor to get the crowds pouring into the theater. Unfortunately, Ghoulies 2 didn't get a theatrical release. It went straight to video, where it spawned 2 more sequels, actually. But this time, the little pus monsters show up at a carnival, blending in with the other freaks, killing slutty carnies and geek high school students until everybody starts drawing pentagrams in the dirt and quoting Shakespeare, trying to stop them from throwing people out of the Ferris wheel. And once again, there is a midget involved. But you know what? Let's just do those drive-in totals and get it started. We have 8 dead bodies, no breasts, 5 dead ghoulies, razor blade slicing, knife to the leg, pus to the face, ghoulie to the face, severed arm, foot biting, ghoulie eating, death by toxic waste, death by pendulum, exploding ghoulie, ghoulie foo, and of course, toilet foo. So 2 stars. Check it out, and I'll be right here with you all night long. Did you notice how I used that word, scatological?
Yeah.
You know what that means?
No.
It means pertaining to the end times. That's what it means. End of the world, Armageddon, all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
I know it's dirty jokes, but how do you think they got the words end times from that? Hence, scatological. You know, my philosophy of viewer mail, who needs the heartache? Get rid of it. Unfortunately, TNT insists that you continue to pummel me with your incredibly diverse and somewhat frightening opinions. There are 2 ways to do this. You can write to us at Monstervision, care of TNT Programming, 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318. Or you can use the ways of the truly disturbed. You can email us at monstervision@turner.com. I thank you, Ted Turner thanks you, and Bill Gates thanks you.
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Ghoulies 2 on TNT.
The evil Mr. Harden wants to replace Satan's Den with female mud wrestling. And we're supposed to root for the haunted house? First rule of screenwriting, always make your main character sympathetic. How am I supposed to sympathize with the guy standing in the way of a mud wrestling tent? That's a no-brainer. Anyhow, I told you Ghoulies was made by Empire Pictures, headed by Charles Band. After the relative success of the first movie, he wanted to make Ghoulies 2, but he couldn't find any directors who would touch the movie without changing the script. So he hired a guy he knew would do it without changing the script, his daddy, Albert Band, who directed the original Young Guns in 1956. He directed a creepy movie called I Bury the Living, fairly famous cult movie. And then he went to Italy and he did a bunch of spaghetti westerns under the name Alfredo Antonioni. See, the Americans change their names to Italian names when they work in Italy. The Italians all have these American names. Anyway, and then he came back to the U.S. and he started making low-budget B-movies for his son, Charles. And I should also mention that Albert Band, the father, normally composes all the music for his son's pictures. And I noticed on this one that the music is credited to Fusby Morse. Now, Since nobody's ever heard of Fusby Morse, I suspect that Albert didn't want the credits to read produced by, directed by, music by, edited by, because once you get more than 7 or 8 credits by one guy on the front end of a movie, looks like you're cheap. Of course, the bands are cheap, but anyway, back to the flick. Did you notice how the big meeting that they had was at the 10-in-1? You know what a 10-in-1 is? It means 10 acts under one tent. A 10-in-1 was always the backbone of the carnival, the freak show. And at least 5 of those acts would then have some further money-making gimmick so that once you were inside the tent, they had these other ways to get your quarters, you know, another quarter to look behind this curtain, another quarter to buy some pictures of the tattooed lady. But anyway, the 10-in-1 was usually the largest employer on the Midway, so it was the natural meeting place for all the carnies. Now, wasn't that enlightening? Do I know my freaks or do I know my freaks?
Oh, yeah. You know.
Hi, I'm Rusty, the Monstervision mail girl. It's not an easy job, especially when Joe Bob says something really annoying, and I have to deliver 20 times as many letters from Monstervision viewers. But don't worry, I work out 5 times a week to make sure I can handle anything you want to send my way. Come visit me at Monstervision website, tnt.turner.com/Monstervision, and I'll show you what I mean.
See Rusty deliver the Monstervision fan mail to Joe Bob Briggs every Saturday night on TNT. Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Ghoulies 2 on TNT.
Boy, those people don't get out much, do they? I like how the crowd runs into the haunted house like it's a Pink Floyd concert or something. Isn't that the concert where people got trampled to death? Pink Floyd? Or was it that Julio Iglesias concert in Puerto Vallarta where that happened? You know the blonde girl who goes into the haunted house looking for Muffy the kitten? You know why she has to die? Because she's a slut. All sluts must die, the 4th rule of low-budget horror. Anyhow, that's Royal Dano as the drunkard Uncle Ned there. Royal Dano died about 5 years ago, but man, did he work a lot. 83 films, countless TV shows. I won't bore you with all the titles of his films except one, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Remember that one, Clowns with a K? Great flick. One of Royal Dano's first movies was The Red Badge of Courage in 1951, which Albert Band co-wrote. The screenplay, obviously. The novel, of course, was written by... The novel, Red Badge of Courage, was written by Margaret Mitchell. When in doubt about a Civil War novel, just say Margaret Mitchell. Okay, nobody knows the difference. Oh, I remember what concert it was where the people got killed. Neil Diamond in London. You know, 3 old ladies and a guy selling hot tea were trampled to death in 1972. Tragic accident. I know it was Stephen Crane. I know Stephen Crane wrote The Red Badge of Courage. Ichabod Crane's brother, right? You know, there just aren't that many things that are scary anymore, are there? Fortunately, one of them is our Monstervision website, which is where we put the viewer mail we're too chicken to actually put on TV. Did you people have mothers that write this stuff? Good grief. You can also check out the weekly Playmate, provided your taste in centerfolds runs to scaly mutants and saber-toothed vixens. Just head on over to tnt.turner.com/Monstervision, and when you get there, do me a favor, okay? Keep it in the ballpark area of borderline psychotic. Don't go into that other zone, all right? We got kids logging on. Some of them are already mutating.
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Ghoulies 2 on TNT.
That guy Merle who got mummified by the Ghoulies, what was his crime, class? Why did he have to die? He was stupid. That is correct. He was stupid. The 5th law of low-budget horror, the stupid must suffer. So anyway, that actor is William Butler, and he's already quite a veteran of horror sequels. He was in Friday the 13th, Part 7, Night of the Living Dead, the remake in the 90s, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, and he starred in Watchers 4. Now, Either he is a huge horror fan or he needs a new agent. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna hurt that guy who keeps calling his radio his tunes. Where are those little murderous demons when you need them? Okay, back to Ghoulies 2. Roll it. And I think I figured out what those ghoulies are supposed to be, too, because let's see, there's the cat ghoulie, the dog ghoulie, the flying fish ghoulie, alligator ghoulie, and the Danny DeVito ghoulie. So what you got, basically, is a PBS children's special on pet care with mutations.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Ghoulies 2 on TNT.
Okay, that was the obligatory touching moment, wasn't it? Nicole is afraid of heights ever since her brother missed the net. So Larry comforts her. And why do I think that later on she'll have to go up high again? Also, if that midget does any more Shakespeare, I'm bailing on this one. Because you know what? This is the same midget who quotes Shakespeare in Troll, isn't it? This guy, the midget, was trying to make a whole career out of... He wanted to be remembered as, you know, that dwarf who does Hamlet. Get that guy for me. I need that guy for my movie. But that raspy voice he's got, is that a midget thing? Because sometimes he sounds normal, but most of the time he sounds just like Hervé Villechaize did, but without the French accent. Except he doesn't look like Hervé Villechaize. He looks like the guy from Hall & Oates. I don't know which guy from... Who was the dark guy with the mustache in Hall & Oates? The shorter one. Yeah, that was Oates, right? So anyway, this guy's name is Phil Fondacaro, and he's been in a lot of movies. He was Abraham Lincoln in, I'm only kidding. He plays short guys usually. He played Cousin It in Addams Family Reunion, the one with Daryl Hannah as Morticia. That one must have got by me somehow. He was a troll in Troll. He played a bartender in Steel Justice. Now, that's got to be tough for a midget to pull off. Bartender, right? He was an Ewok in Return of the Jedi. But wait a minute, weren't the Ewoks big? The Ewoks are enormous. Wasn't Chewbacca an Ewok? I got to brush up on my Star Wars particulars for this summer. No, they weren't? Ewoks were little. The Wookiees were big. Okay. Well, maybe I can get TNT to schedule those flicks for us so I don't have to go out and rent them. Yeah, like we're going to buy those movies. Or like they ever listen to me. You know, keep dreaming, Joe Bob. Just don't even go down that road. Okay, let's go. They did let me show the original Godzilla around the time the new Godzilla came out last year. One the critics hated and the public hated, but my friend's 7-year-old kid is obsessed with that movie. Threw a temper tantrum when they took him to see the Nutcracker on Ice because he wanted to see Godzilla on ice, right? He probably accounts for half of the box office receipts on that flick because, let's see, half of $100. Yeah, that's about right. When you enter the Monstervision Caption Contest, don't just string a bunch of cuss words together and tell us that's funny. Only Jack Nicholson can do that. If you really want that Monstervision t-shirt, then impress me with your sincerity. Try something witty, or at least amusing. Don't make us snicker. Make us roar with unabashed delight. Go to tnt.turner.com/Monstervision and make the six-headed jury laugh and turn over a new leaf in your life, okay?
Play the Monster Caption Contest and win a free t-shirt at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Ghoulies 2 on TNT.
Slime City. The Ghoulies are heading for the Midway and they're ready to party. Are you sensing a slight lack of enthusiasm on my part? 'Cause slime that day player. They're sliming them left and right. Yes, sir, Rooney. All right, my favorite part is coming up here, so I'm going to move it right along. Remember the famous bar scene in Gremlins? Well, this is Empire Pictures' answer to that famous scene. Roll it. The Ghoulies are on the loose in Rome. That's where this flick was shot. Why? I don't know, but it was shot in Rome. They had to pay more for cameras, but they got fresh mozzarella at cost in Rome. Cheese for the cheesy.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Ghoulies 2 on TNT.
Well, I'm just astounded. Isn't it amazing how they can look up passages in the magic spell book while being attacked by rabid ghoulies? That was amazing. Anyway, I love the ghoulies loose at the carnival, especially that shooting gallery scene with the one ghoulie walking back and forth while the other ghoulie shoots at him. I enjoyed that so much, I'm not even going to try and figure out what movie they ripped that off from. And then there's the great toilet scene, the obligatory toilet scene in a ghoulies movie where the weenie accountant gets his hiney chewed out. Okay, the giant ghoulie has made its appearance. Let's return for the low-budget conclusion to Ghoulies 2. Roll it. And don't skip the ending. Don't skip this ending. You don't want to be confused when you see Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College. Very important to know all the carefully constructed plot points before you move on to the next Ghoulies classic. You're only cheating yourself.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Ghoulies 2 on TNT.
And there you have it. The giant rubber suit Gillman Ghoulie gets blown up with a Molotov cocktail, and Larry and Nicole go off to find other cheapo horror sequels to star in. Kind of a mild ending there. I want to remind you, though, that we're showing Carrie again next week. Last time we showed Carrie, I had an actual witch co-host it with me, and I think we offended him somehow because things hadn't worked quite right around here ever since then, you know. But this time we're showing it straight up, and then we'll have the prequel to Twin Peaks about the last 7 days of Laura Palmer, Twin Peaks, Firewalk with Me, which doesn't make a lick of sense. I can't even understand that movie, but we're showing it. And that's it for me, Joe Bob Briggs, reminding you that some people are alive only because it's illegal to kill them. Did you guys hear the one about the blonde who gets a brand new sports car for her 16th birthday? Well, she goes out driving, and when she's out driving, she cuts off a tractor trailer. And so the driver motions her to pull off to the side of the road, and when she pulls over, the truck pulls up behind her, and the driver gets out, he takes a piece of chalk out of his pocket, and he draws a circle around the blonde. He tells her not to step out of the circle. Then he pulls out a pocket knife, he goes over to her car, and he cuts up her leather seats. Well, when he turns around, the blonde is stifling a giggle. So he says, "You think that's funny? Then watch what I do now." So he takes out his knife again, he slashes all 4 of her tires. Turns around, now she's laughing. So the driver gets really mad, and he goes into his truck, and he pulls out a bat, and he smashes all her windows and smashes the car all up. The blonde starts laughing so hard she can barely stand up. Well, now the truck driver gets really, really mad, so he gets a gas can out of his truck, and he torches her car. Well, now the blonde is on the ground, she's rolling around, she's laughing her head off. So the truck driver looks at her, and he says, "What's so funny?" And the blonde says, "When you weren't looking, I stepped outside the circle 4 times. Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. Blonde walks into a store, right? She sees this shiny object, and she asks the clerk, "What is that?" The clerk says, "It's a thermos." The blonde says, "What does a thermos do?" The clerk says, "It keeps hot things hot and cold things cold." So the blonde buys a thermos. Next day, she brings her thermos to work, and her boss, who's also a blonde, says, "What's that shiny object?" And so the first blonde says, "It's a thermos." And the boss says, "What does it do?" And the blonde says, "It keeps hot things hot and cold things cold." And the boss says, "What do you have in there?" The blonde says, 2 cups of coffee and a popsicle.